Before we get into this review, I just want us all to take a moment of silence to pay respect to our fallen punching bag, the cat box.
The arms of the angel fly.
With that out of the way, let's talk about a comic that wouldn't be strange if it popped up on the cat box. I am talking about the comic known as The Depths, or rather, The Depths, an adult furry webcomic. Seriously, every page has that and the page title as the header. It's freaking weird. The Depths, an adult furry webcomic, is a comic illustrated by El Blue Deer and written by Leilani Pierre. That last name there is gonna be interesting as we dive into the comic, by the way. Anyway, I was made aware of this comic when the two creators of the comic reached out to me about reviewing their comic on Twitter, and I was even invited onto a Picardo stream of theirs where I joined and hung out and realized these were great people with an excellent taste in old school music. It's a shame that comic is fucking ridiculous. So let's not waste any time. As I'm sure many of you have figured out the moment I said it'd be fitting to find this comic on the cat box, is that it's a pretty dumb comic but with a lot of nudity and sex. I mean, it is after all The Depths, an adult furry webcomic. So of course, I'm not gonna complain about there being nudity. It's like going to a butcher and asking, the fuck's up with all this meat? Or going into a webcomic relief video and go, why is this guy cussing so much? You get what you pay for. So it wouldn't make a lot of sense of me to lambast the sex in an adult comic, and if you want to get your furry rocks off, I can imagine there's a lot worse comics you can go to. In fact, I kinda like that from the get-go it's very open about what it is. It's a story that you can follow, and every now and again there's gonna be sex. It's like the webcomic Druids that my buddy Amocin is making. There's none of that. Oh boy, will they do it! Will we get to see a nipple? Oh boy! No, it's just all out in the open. That being said, it's not like there's not a teeny tiny issue with this, but we'll get more into that later. The story follows the main protagonist, the other Leilani Pierre. If the name sounds familiar, it's cause it's the same name as the author. Ladies and gentlemen, we got ourselves a self-insert. Now, I'm not gonna go into the whole song and dance about how self-inserts can be okay and all that. If you wanna know more about that, go check out some of my other videos. Leilani, however, is not a good self-insert. Now, it's not like she can just do everything she wants, but besides that, she checks almost all the boxes for a bad self-insert, in that she's kinda becomes a lot like a Mary Sue. Everyone wants to fuck her. She's always in the right. The comic is not even 100 pages, and the bitch is proposed to twice and married once, and is about to marry the other guy too. She's also the best diver in the entire village and seems to know much more about the world than the rest of her village. She also seems to have this code speak where she asks people to swim with her, and what it really means is, I want you to fuck me in the water. I swear, this girl lets so many people inside of her, you beg to God that she has some type of protection. Some kind of military grade protection. The kind of protection that protects her from any sort of intruder going into her most private stuff. The kind of protection that is provided by NordPass. We got a sponsor, baby! I am sure all of you have heard about NordVPN from several other YouTubers, but I'm here today to show you that the webcomic relief is cutting edge, as we're one of the first to promote the newest product from the same beautiful bastards that gave us NordVPN. I'm talking about the big dog in online security, NordPass. This bad boy here is powered by NordVPN cybersecurity professionals who has a ton of experience in the market. So what can this bad boy do exactly? Well, I'm glad you asked, Timmy. Jennifer, whatever your name is. NordPass is your one-click stop for all online security needs. Are you tired of remembering different passwords for different sites? NordPass has autosave and autofill, keeping track of all that stuff for you. Or are you one of those people who use the same password for everything, and if anyone guesses your one password, you're basically fucked? Well, NordPass can also offer a password generator that generates secure and complex character combinations instantly. Are you one of the lovely bastards that are going to buy one of the webcomic relief blow the lid of your imagination t-shirts after the video? Well, NordPass can keep track of all those pesky credit card details for you. And also, like the good wingman you take to the bar with you, NordPass recognizes suspicious activity so you don't accidentally reveal your sensitive information, like giving your number out to some other who insists on fucking underwater.
Don't tell me you don't know what I'm talking about.
And if you are ever in doubt or unsure what to do or what's going on, you can always contact their 24/7 award-winning customer support. There's a ton of more stuff I can tell you about, but I'm gonna save that for the next video. What I am gonna tell you, however, is that if you go to this link here, that will also be in the description, or you go to their website and use the coupon code WCR, you will get 50% off your purchase plus 1 whole month for free. So you can try it out, see if it works for you, and if not, no harm done, right? So once again, hit the link in the description or use the coupon code WCR and get 50% off plus 1 month for free and help the show out and support these beautiful bastards who took a chance on me.
I'm not even playing, I actually got NordPass installed on my phone right now. And I don't know if you know, but back in December my old Bellnet account actually got hacked. And all I can say is I would love to see them try this now. Oh Jesus.
Anyway, back to the depths, an adult furry webcomic. Most of the story as it is now is Liliani explaining a flashback to her current lover, a panther called Cherry. She tells the story about how one day a ship come across her island, and with that came the studly dreamboat wolf David, who she quickly, and I do mean quickly, falls in love with. I mean, they've been on the island for, what, a few days, and they get fucking married. Like, this is the pace we're talking about. Anyway, with David also comes Jamie, who's a cunt. Jamie wants some black oysters that are there, but I don't want to give everything away. What I want to talk about instead is the many times that Liliani has sex with David. Now, I'm not opposed to that at all, not even the 3 pages straight that just them humping like doomsday rabbits, but you gotta remember that this is Leilani explaining this stuff to her current lover. Now, it's bad enough that Leilani somehow knows stuff that's going on which she herself is not witness to, but the incredibly long sex scenes just makes me think she's going, "Oh, he was such
But
a
then
dreamo.
what?
He pinned me against the rocks and then
But then what,
fucked me
sweetie?
like a dirty
Can
girl.
you
He was pulling
stop
my hair,
it, s'il vous
fucking
plaît.
giving it to me. He was
Le
so
fucking
big.
stop!
Also, boy must it suck to be this panther guy Cherry. Cause this girl really is just letting it all out about how he was the most perfectest guy and how much in love she was. Like, this is some advanced cucking or some shit. Anyway, a bunch of stuff happens and I'd be lying if I said I wasn't enjoying myself a little. Yes, the comic is silly and dumb. I mean, for fuck's sake, at one point one character has just developed telekinesis off screen without there having been a hint of anything paranormal up to that point. But you kinda learn to enjoy the dumb. I can't exactly say it's all well written, as much of the enjoyment just came from goofy mistakes. Like, once again, fucking up the whole thing about using brackets to indicate when they're speaking a different language, and me reading too much into the furry thing. Like, it always makes me giggle a little when the other Leilani would say, "What do you mean, Panther?" to Jerry. I mean, the real life equivalent would be,
So how are you doing, Asian?
if there are some kudos I will give the writing, is that its pace is really good. Maybe with the wordless 3-page sex thing and the fact that both David and Jerry proposes to Leilani after seemingly having only known her for a few days being an exception. I also like how they knowingly implement the setup and the payoff. Like, at one time we see Leilani use a rock to make herself sink faster, and we then see David use the same technique after having learned from watching Leilani doing it. It also manages to set up some mystery, which I always appreciate. Now, it's just a matter of seeing whether they manage to keep that mystery up and how well it pays off.
Also, without giving too much away, don't for a second think I didn't catch that Majora's Mask inspiration in that massive fish.
The art of the comic is, however, really good. Every page is oozing with a lot of color and charm and backgrounds, and you're always right there with understanding what's going on. I especially like that when they're underwater, almost all onomatopoeia and text is gone, really giving a feeling of just how quiet and scary the depths an adult furry webcomic can be. I especially like how well the water is done. There's the right amount of stuff for you to always know when they're on the water and give a really scenic look. It's not like in Hammer where you sometimes can't even see what's going on for all the bubbles. I also gotta say that for an adult comic that's clearly also there for people to do their thing to, the proportions of the characters are pretty realistic. There's no gigantic tits or horse-sized dicks, it's all pretty realistic, which is pretty refreshing honestly. That being said, however, there's something about the art that I'm not sure whether you guys have picked up on, or if it's just me who is being too nitpicky. As good as everything looks, there's just something about the shading that's just wrong. And that's because the shades are too strong. Like, when you see images like this during the sunset, it's fine. But then you see them during the day, and the shading just looks too strong. The reason why it works during sunset is because there's no atmospheric light hitting the subject, as much as when the sun is up in the sky. It's technically only being lit up from one angle, so the shadow stands out way more. But when the sun is out, the light is actually reflecting off of damn near everything. That is why if you see a picture of someone on the beach during the middle of the day, they are well lit pretty much all over. But you then see someone during a sunset or a sunrise, and the shadows will be far more distinct. If you want to check this out for yourself, look at an object when your room is fully lit, and then look at it when only it has one light source pointed straight at it. So yeah, the shades are just too damn dark most of the time. And it's not just when they're outside and the water can kind of reflect the light, it's the same story when they're inside a building or something. Much of this can be solved simply by making the shadows brighter, and you're good.
There's also this entire thing about how light reflects off of the characters, but that entire thing just comes back to me not understanding furries, you know, with how like apparently they have fur some places, which is like one color, and then there's places where they apparently don't have fur, so you can have like that really glossy skin effect, but the skin is the same color as the fur. But how does that make sense? Look, I just don't get it, okay?
If I were to recommend this comic in any capacity, it'd be for the art. I feel this is where the comic has the most highs. Even when sharing it around amongst my friends, it was the art we kept complimenting. It's not flawless by any means, but there's a lot of good stuff in it. The effects, the anatomy, the angles, the presentation, and even the layout of the comic is super solid. Especially the backgrounds deserve mad kudos. There's a good comic here, the writing just kinda has to catch up a little, I find. And again, this is less than 100 pages in, so take it with a grain of salt.
I actually did some research and found out that both a Blue Deer and Leilani actually have a bunch of published work under their belt, so, you know, massive kudos for that. Just, you're not quite there yet, in my opinion.
The writing is a 5. It's pretty stupid and silly, but at the same time there's something there if you can be asked to stick around. The art is a 7. There's good stuff here, just don't grow complacent, but strive to keep improving, and we might be looking at something far better soon. The characters are a 4. They're not great. It's hard to tell what the different characters' personalities are, as it kinda flip-flops all over the place, but I guess it could be worse. All in all, this comic is a 6. You know, if you want some porn with a story, this might be for you. You can do worse, but there's definitely also other fish in the depths. An adult furry webcomic.
The Devs, an adult furry webcomic, isn't exactly my cup of tea. But if this sounds like something that is up your alley, by all means go check it out. And I also insist that you go show Leilani and a Blue Deer some love. They're amazing people. Speaking of amazing people, why no, I'm by no stretch of the imagination a massive fan of Lautaro, the artist of this comic.
Okay, so maybe I'm a little biased. Wonderguys is a comic made by Ghostlaw, a team made out of Lautaro and Ellen. This comic, in the creator's own words, is a paranormal road trip comic where we follow Agatha as she travels a land that is now plagued by the spirits of the dead. The comic started in October 2018 and was unfortunately halted a year later in 2019. With that being said, I wanted to showcase my guy Lautaro's work forever, so I still wanted to show this comic off.
Yes, I am incredibly biased, but this is my show. I can do what I want.
As mentioned before, the story follows Agatha as she travels from place to place in her cute little car and her all too big jacket. From the get-go, it is immediately apparent where the inspiration for the comic comes from. From both several and different ghost TV shows, which is a guilty pleasure of mine, I'll admit, X-Files, that I love, and Twin Peaks, which I am literally too stupid to understand. Wonderguys is quirky and oddly aloof with its paranormal elements, even with how the paranormal is portrayed as grim and horrible. Like, look at this guy. He's one of my favorite characters and he doesn't even have a face, but just look at this character design. Anyway, the story is kinda parted up in these small little side stories, all telling the different adventures that Agatha is up to in the different town and city she ventures to. They do, however, seem to all eventually get an overarching story centered around some terrible curse that decides to follow Agatha after she visits an old bunker and sees something.
And the reason for my vagueness is... well, we'll get into that.
Meet Agatha, the protagonist of the comic, and there's not a whole lot more to say about her. I just can't get a beat on her. She kinda flip-flops all over with her character. When we first see her, she seems like a professional who's tried and seen it all when it comes to ghosts. She seems like Mulder from X-Files mixed with Agent Cooper from Twin Peaks, which to me are two widely different characters. She has the professional, laser-focused, detached and educated part of Mulder, and the carefree, childish and quirky part of Cooper. Seems completely unfazed by venturing into scary, haunted places to actively look for ghosts, but will then panic and flee from her car when the car might have a ghost in it. She seems detached from other people, not interested in building any relationship with anyone because of her traveling lifestyle, but will then start macking super hard on this one dude and... yeah, okay, even I would do... I mean, it's incredibly fine, but that's beside the point. I'm sure you can see where I'm going with this. Agatha is all over the place and not consistent at all, which is a crying shame, because when you have this one constant that travels from place to place and interacts with new characters in every place, that constant needs to be, well, constant. It's so you can see the different characters bounce off of the character we've already defined. That's why One Piece works so well. All of the crew's characters are so constant in their personalities that you at any time know exactly what to expect from them. So when they travel around the world, it's funny to see this constant interact with different variables. In other words, the core needs to be strong, and with Agatha as the core, it leaves a lot to be desired.
And that is not the only place that this comic could use some loving care.
Okay, so, Lautaro is an amazing artist. There's something about his art style that no one else I know can replicate. His style is cool and real. He draws realistic humans wearing real clothes with real proportions, and he's just able to make them look so fucking cool. His girls too are sexy as hell, and there's always this artistic edge to it with how he typically represents his art pieces. The composition is unique and it's not like what you'd find on a magazine cover. Especially his hard shadows is very characteristic and perfect for noir detective stories or something else that shares the grim realities of humans. The hard shadow shows the duality of man, how we are able to do things of incredible good as well as things of incredible evil. So yes, I fucking adore Lautaro's art, and he's one of my favorite artists that I've ever seen, and I'm so pleased to be on speaking terms with this guy. But judging by this comic, his art is only this good when it's not supposed to tell a sequence of events. Let me put it like this. Look at this. This is Agatha standing at a big hole in a bunker staring down into something. We never know what it is. Fair enough, it's supposed to build up some suspense, but It seems like the plot only really finds itself down this bunker, and we never see what the bunker really looks like. We see some dude is dead, but what's the state of the rest of the bunker? Was there a firefight? How many dead bodies are there? It's supposed to be a grim display, I think, but we never see that. It's pretty clear that it's not a normal bunker, so show us how different it was. There's also shots like this where I think Agatha is turning on the lights, but can you tell that the lights got turned on? Now this would be fine and dandy if, say, it was a dream or a broken distant memory, then sure, be as vague as you want. But this is Agatha having just experienced this and telling the story to someone else.
Now, I don't want you to think that Lautaro is incapable of this shit. In fact, I have all the faith in the world that he can do just fine. But judging from this one piece of work, out of what I can understand is a pretty massive portfolio of comics, it kinda flip-flops all over the place.
I somehow feel that Lautaro would be greatest used in some human-driven drama, but getting to see him going all out with the horror is a treat to behold as well, even when the presentation can be a little lackluster. Things look straight up unnerving, but it somehow feels like he follows the same design philosophy as Miyazaki had for the designs in Dark Souls. Things are scary looking and tragic, but they're never losing their dignity. Death is many times tragic, and the way the ghosts in the comic are represented helps emphasizing that. Again, even when the dude's head is blown up, he never loses his dignity and is somehow super cool despite of it.
I wish we got to find out more about him, but then the comic stopped.
Unfortunately, for reasons unknown, Wonderguys had to stop, which is a crying shame. There's not nearly enough horror comics out there, and the ones that are there are usually about monsters and a character with a scar and a scythe or some shit and It's far more interesting in my opinion to follow real people facing off against the paranormal, especially when it's in that paranormal spot where you can kinda explain a lot of it, but not all of it. So while I respect Ghost Lore for stopping the comic, I also hope they're aware that it'll be horribly missed by me and a bunch of other people. And I will look forward to see what else we can get from these two great creators. Because Ellen is a great writer and Lautaro is a great artist, and I'm sure whatever venture they decide to go on after this will be great. And I'll be sure to let you guys know on my social media if I ever find something out. Unfortunately, from here, that's all I can really say about this comic. It's short and stopped just as it started to get going, and unfortunately, that doesn't leave a whole lot to talk about.
Now, I haven't even gotten around to tell you guys about the genius that is this comic's name, Wondergeist. The word Geist in German means ghost, but in many northern languages, the word Geist can also mean an interest or a lust for something. So the word Wondergeist can both be the interest in traveling around, or it can be the wandering ghost. Now how is that for double entendre?
The writing is a 7. It's so nice to see something that's so different and odd, yet focused in what it wishes to tell. It stumbles a little with some odd pacing and stiff dialogue due to English not being their first language, but besides that, it's great. The art is a 7 as well. In case it's not obvious already, Lautaro is a fantastic artist and his designs and style is nothing short of fantastic. Unfortunately, there are some cases where you don't know what's going on, and especially in the beginning there seems to be some confusion as to what to present. The characters are a 5. The main character is not clearly defined, and seeing the people around Agatha only stick around for one chapter, they don't really get time to shine. The final verdict of this comic is a 7. It's a good comic that unfortunately didn't get time to shine. There are some growing pains in the beginning, but it definitely finds its footing. Check this comic out and keep your eyes posted for whether these two geniuses ever create anything else.
But wait, I got more good stuff coming your way.
So, let me tell you about one of my absolute favorite games of all time, even if it's not flawless by any stretch of the imagination. there is this game that you have probably not heard about called Anarchy Reigns, which is a spiritual successor to the Wii exclusive game called Mad World. It's one of those games that just fucking works. The writing is good, the pacing is good, the action is good, the visual style is good, the music is phenomenal, and the designs are so good that less qualified designers copied several years down the line and got all the credit for it, but what the fuck do I know? Again, not flawless in any way and probably not everyone's cup of tea, but it's one of those that I still to this day look at with rose-tinted glasses and just, you know, think about all the fun I had with it. I mean, you could power drive fucking helicopters, what more do you need? Well, I think I found a comic just like that. Obviously not as good as Anarchy Reigns, but that's an unfair comparison, but one where everything is just kinda clicking. A comic where the art is good, the writing is good, the pacing is good, the site is good, and you're just dealing with a good ass comic, but that is, again, not perfect in any way, but it's still just really good. I'm talking about the comic Unknown Lands.
The name of the comic though, I kind of feel like the key sentence here is going to be far from perfect, but still really good.
Unknown Lands is a fantasy comic written and illustrated by Rosie Kempe. And I'll be damned if I try to put a gender on that, so we'll just call Rosie them for now. Unknown Lands follows the group consisting of Vard, Mariah, Kai, Inara, and Mischief as they venture out to stop someone else from doing something. You see, the comic tries to do this thing that it kinda fails at in the beginning, where it tries to establish that the world of Unknown Lands used to be this high-end technological society, but then magic suddenly showed up and fucked everyone over, and people started thinking magic was the next dopest shit. And honestly, I was super on board with this. Mixing magic with high-tech society signed me the fuck up. The closer we can get to Shadowrun, the better, you know? Well, they kinda just drop the technology on the floor. Like, you will every now and again have a character say, oh, I got this raid I need to do, or they'll hear something over television, but everything else is just your typical ye olde fantasy setting. People are living in cottages, there's inns with varied travelers, like we've seen a million times before. People are walking around with armor and swords, and the only guns we see are more akin to flintlocks than anything modern.
We've kind of reached a point now where, sure, it could be introduced later, but then it would just clash with what we've already been introduced to, because we've seen so much of A that it would just be jarring to suddenly be introduced to B.
Anyway, the story starts out with Kai and Mariah employing Vard because they need to go hire a local unknown. Unknowns are some super powerful being that have few selected champions that are the strongest of all unknowns. That is what the character Inara is. Kai, Mariah and Vard need Inara because some elves are up to something. Inara and her companion Mischief decide to aid the three, but only if they in return will give a year of their servitude as guardians to Inara and Mischief. They rather quickly and casually agree to this, and thus the story can begin.
In terms of plot, it's actually nice and simple and it works. It could be introduced better, but it works just fine.
Now, the comic has a lot of stuff going for it. When you see Nara work, you never question why she's the champion, cause she's so fucking omnipotent, it's downright funny. But at the same time, they did make her weak enough that she works much like a glass cannon. It's not like Helsing, who you never feel any peril from cause the dude's literally too powerful for there to ever be a worry. Mischief is similarly strong, but you can still tell there's a power gap between him and Inara. In case it's not immediately apparent, there's a bunch of action in the comic, and with that, a lot of gore too. And for all intents and purposes, it works just fine. It gets you pumped, there's always clear stakes, and for the most part, you get what's going on, even if most of it is magic.
For the most part.
See, there is this thing that you kinda have to master when you make an action comic, and that's what you put here. No, not here or here, but here. The gutter. Let me use these pictures here for example. Here we see Vard blocking an axe with his sword, and then next he brings the sword up to punch this guy in the face with the guard. Nothing too bad, right? The problem is that how's he gonna bring his sword up at this angle if he got his arm extended out to grab the guy's throat? He'd end up cutting his own arm or stabbing the guy before being able to punch him. These are the small things that can kind of ruin a good fight scene. The gutter is where the viewer gets to fill in the blanks, they get to decide what happens. So when something doesn't make sense, like here, it makes this awkward situation where you kind of just have to go, okay, this doesn't make sense, let's move on. The comic also kind of jumps between doing setup and payoffs right and kind of failing at it. Like, someone will try and knee Vard in the face and Vard will be like, oh no, and we'll see his face and him go, oh no. But we won't know what he's reacting to is a knee before he's being kicked. If Vard is able to discern a knee is coming in such a degree he can even respond to it in words, we the audience should get to share this anticipation with him.
Sorry, I know I'm going off on a tangent here, I just very rarely get to cover good fight scenes.
There's also times, and this is unfortunately what comes with the nature of the comic having so much to do with magic, that sometimes Rosie kinda just expects you to know what's going on and you got no fucking clue what the spell you're watching is supposed to be doing. For the most part, however, it's not a problem and you actually get a good idea of what's going on. But when the pace is high and a lot of stuff is going on, you don't want to have to stop and go, wait, what?
Now that's just for the fighting. As for the designs...
Yeah, boy!
Now, let's, look past Vard, cause he's kinda a little too much. And let's look past Mariah, cause she's a little too little. The rest is so fucking good. Like fucking... Inara, just so fucking fine. I mean, with the side cut and the red hair and the plum lips and the body and the corset and fuck me, I don't care, I'm horny on main. Now, sure, sometimes the comic goes too crazy with making her look badass or sexy, but fuck if I care, cause I'm the exact sucker who this shit works on, and I'm not even gonna deny it.
Don't at me.
And then we got Mischief, and again, I love his design. I'm not too hot on his weird beard, but the rest is just stellar. He looks exactly how I'd expect a modern shaman to look. He's stylish, handsome, looks mischievous, and there's a certain type of wildness to him, as well as a sense of sophistication. His loose clothing perfectly resembles his carefree nature. It's been a while since I've been able to just dissect a character like this. Mischief is just a picture-perfect example of good design that fits the character to a T.
It's one of those characters where I can just show you a picture of the character and you'll be able to tell me everything about that character. It's fucking stellar.
Now, it seems like Rosie was perfectly aware of how handsome they made Mischief and how drop-dead fucking gorgeous they made Inara, cause at one point the comic just goes straight into porn. No, not just sex, no, fucking porn. Now, let's first of all tackle what I like about that, besides seeing Inara naked. Elements within the comic helps obscuring the actual hardcore sex, so that those of us who just want to read the comic for the plot don't have to be distracted by the full-on porn on screen. And we can read it whenever we're at work or go to school without raising too many eyebrows. And those who want to see the sexy goddess that is Inara in full-blown porn, well, they can go buy that. I think it's a clever way of doing it. Now, here's my issue though. As hot as Inara and Mischief are, why is there porn? Like, I get that it's a mature adult comic, but it feels so out of place. You got a comic that is so dire, serious and bloody and epic, and then suddenly several pages is just spent on sex. Like, imagine if during the Hellboy movie, the movie just starts having a 20-minute long hard anal sex scene. Sure, the setting is adult and sex wouldn't be out of place, but it's just this odd weird thing that felt kinda shoehorned in a bit to make the comic as mature as possible. It also doesn't help that through the entire comic up to its current point, it's the only time we've seen as much as a nipple, so it feels extra much out of place.
That being said, I want Inara to step on me.
Lastly, I just want to talk about the characters. Now, the characters haven't really had that much of a chance to establish themselves and grow, but again, I've seen comics establish characters in a tenth of what this comic has. Inara and Mischief works because they're supposed to be covered in a sense of mystery. I will however say Rosie maybe went a little overboard in making Inara cool, because not only is she this super strong unknown, she's also some Reaper thing, cause I guess she wasn't special enough. But yeah, the rest of the characters are so blah. If you read any fantasy thing ever, you know exactly who these characters are. Throw some glasses on the clever guy, throw some bitchy hair on the protagonist, and plop in a girl there cause there needs to be one. I can tell that they will grow as the story goes, cause there's set up pieces to expand on later on. But right now, it's just not that great.
I guess we'll see where it goes.
The writing is a 7. It's good. It's a little in a rush and kinda skips over some important things because it wants to get the ball rolling. For once, it's a comic that could do with taking it a little slower. The art is an A. I really love the art and presentation of this comic. The backgrounds could do with some work and the details are lacking in places, but the rest is great and has a lot of thought put into it. The characters are a 6. Not great, but not terrible either. I feel we are definitely gonna see some more of the characters later, but for now, it's really lackluster. The final verdict of Unknown Lands is a 7. It's definitely a strong comic that I would warmly recommend. It's a good action fantasy comic that is different from other stories. It could be more different if it did more with the technology, but what we got is definitely not poor.
So there you are, 3 webcomics that I personally suggest that you go check out. Obviously, I suggest some of them more than others, but there should be something for all of you. Also, remember to go check out NordPass and use the promo code WCR or use the link in the description. Not just because it's a wonderful product that I use myself, but also just to thank them for having faith in me and daring to sponsor me. And with that, I'll see you guys in the next webcomic relief. Take care.
Sit back and watch my flag ascend. I won't talk myself up, I don't need to pretend. You won't see me coming till it's too late again. I'm gonna sit back and watch my flag ascend. My name is Thunder, Lightning. My name is something very frightening. My name is Adrenaline, exciting. You don't believe. My name is Thunder, Lightning. I'll be showing up uninvited. My name is Adrenaline, exciting. If you don't believe, then let me show you. Fate. I'll rise so high, I'll be the Empire State.
Hello, all you lovely people, and thank you for watching this episode of the Webcomic Relief. There's not a whole lot to talk about, but there are 2 obvious ones that I'm sure that you have come to be aware of. One of which is, this episode is actually sponsored. It's sponsored by NordPass. They reached out to me, asked if I was interested in sponsoring the product, and after, looking into it, I was like immediately on board. This sounds like a great product, and I started using it, and now I just, can't not use it. It's great, and seriously, if you are in any shape or form interested in it, by all means go check it out. This is a legit good product, and also I think this is my first, promo thing. So if we can show these guys that, this is worth actually investing in, then, that would mean the world to me. So if you guys are interested, please go check it out. There's a link in the description, and just use the promo code WCR and you're good. Also, I'm not sure whether or not you caught this one, but there's a new, like little tweaks here and there in both. I tried to mix the audio different this time. I hope that comes through. And there's also, some graphics that I'm going to try and use more in the future videos. The whole thing about who is the writer, who is the artist, and all that stuff. If you guys like that, please let me know, because I'm making this show based on you guys' thoughts. So if you have anything you like or anything you dislike, let me know. This show is for you guys, so why not tailor it to your wants and needs. And with that, let's talk about the other people who have sponsored this episode, namely my lovely Patreons. Luke McKay. You should all know Luke McKay as the talented creator behind Boss to Dead that we already covered on this show. Luke also does a comic for DnD Beyond that updates every Monday on the DnD Beyond Twitter and Facebook. If any of you are playing D&D, you know D&D Beyond is like the shit. And Luke McKay's comic is equally amount of the shit. So by all means, go check it out. Nicholas Knudson. Nicholas wants me to push the YouTube channel called FishStickOnAStick. It's a channel that does roast reviews and readings of Creepypasta. So it's basically what you get when you mix Nightmine and the Webcomic Relief together. Just like this episode. So check it out! Amocin. We all know how I feel about Blizzard's writing, but Amocin here just goes to show you could easily salvage the World of Warcraft story if you just try. Druids is an adult fantasy comic in the World of Warcraft, so check it out if that sounds like it's right up your alley. Rojaru. Rojaru wants me to push his friend Sequisly, who is currently living in Japan but is raising money to move to America. They normally sell animal pins, stickers of their designs, and will open for commission soon. The link for this will be in the description. Hugo Junstrand. If you don't already know, you should know that Hugo Junstrand is the amazingly talented artist that does my title cards, and if you want to see more of his stuff and celebrate him crossing into 10,000 subscribers, go and check out his animated covers on his YouTube channel. The links are in the description. I'm a Moron. I'm a Moron wants me to push, me, and he says, I want to promote the Webcomic Relief by Riser. If you become a patron right now, you can type first like me in the comments and join the cool type first club like me. So thanks for that. Tired Programmer. Tired Programmer didn't get back to me about what they wanted me to push, so I'm just gonna push their webcomic Cyber Scrapyard. Cyber Scrapyard seems to be a mature action thriller comic about two characters finding out what has happened to their world. If you want to find out more, the link is in the description. The Bonsai. Bonsai doesn't want me to push anything this time, he just wants me to say, and I quote, just tell the fam you rock or something. Thanks man, much appreciated. Nana Newcom. Nana is working on a webcomic called 6 Months, which is a romantic comic about a detective who falls in love with the superhero of the city. If you have been paying attention, you'll know Nana has been a long-time supporter of the Webcomic Relief, and my god can you tell she's improved. So please, go and check it out. Hugo Junstrand. If you are not already aware of who Hugo Junstrand is, there is something very, very wrong, because he is the multi-talented artist who creates my title cards. And not only that, he also does some great animations and just music and, just everything. So by all means, go check out his YouTube channel, give him a sub, and just look at all this amazing stuff this guy does. And also just a huge shout out to Sebastian Benborg, Nina Ha, Graham Herring, Lariah-kun, Hitori the Artist, Why Not Warrior, Cage Bafield, Shiv, and Draker of Adrian. And also a huge shout out to all the lovely people that you see right here. If you want to support the show, there's actually a few different things you can do. You can either go to TeePublic and get your hands on some of the new Webcomic Relief merch with some really crisp designs designed by me and other people in the community. You can also support me on Patreon by donating anything you want every month, and you will get a ton of rewards for it, such as the ability to see the video a day earlier, or get to watch the archived videos of me working on each individual video. If you want to support the show but don't really want to throw any money at it, that's perfectly fair. Then, at least, let me know what you thought about the video in the comment section. Like the video and subscribe to the channel and share the videos with your friends. I'll see you guys at the next webcomic release. Take care.